So board members and community members and teachers and administrators, it's my pleasure this evening to give a progress report. Typically, we do a January update on our district goals for this school year. It's a good opportunity for us to all remind ourselves of the important initiatives we are undertaking and to let you know where we are at with our progress. As some of our students leave, I just want to give a thank you to Lauren and her marketing student colleagues in period 1 at the high, because they gave me some very constructive feedback on my PowerPoint slides, which are much too wordy and not nearly as engaging as they should be. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Strategic planning goal number 1 speaks to how we are building innovative and rigorous educational experiences for our students. And toward that end, here's what we've been working on so far this year. In our English and Language Arts program, this would be the next slide. In our English and Language Arts program, we are nearly completely revised, and the last piece that we're working on is high school course offerings and curriculum under exploration. So you know that Dr. Mulrooney has been suggesting different novel titles each time he meets with the TLC committee, and that will continue over the next several months. Our elementary science curriculum at this point is completely revised, and we have revised curricula and resources in place at our middle and high schools. Social studies has been revised at the middle school level and grade 5. Largely, it was a scope and sequence revision that needed to take place there. The elementary program is being revised. Currently, they have the curriculum in place, but they're looking to identify resources that are appropriate for our primary and elementary grade students. And then I know at the December board meeting, we had some of our elementary string students perform a brief holiday concert, and so I'm excited to report that at this point in the year, 46% of all eligible elementary school students are involved with the strings program, and we have plans underway to bring this to our middle school in September, so I'm super excited about that. We've had our math and science supervisors. I know the board has seen Kelly Curtis and Rachel Villanova speak earlier in the year. Our dual enrollment program with NJIT is growing beautifully. We have at this point 9 STEM classes that are being offered in district that students can take for dual enrollment with NJIT and get credit on their transcript for having taken that course at that college. AP Human Geography and AP Psychology, which are the newest AP courses, which we added last year and this year, are going extremely well. And you know that when Dr. Mulrooney presented his new course proposals for next year, that AP Capstone, which is a 2-year commitment, will be in place for students. Virtual High School, which is an online course program at no cost to our students, that continues to attract a good number of kids. And that's a neat opportunity for our students, because in a district like ours, while we certainly have a good number of interesting and engaging courses, we're not at a place where we can offer oceanography or Irish poetry or nuclear science. And so through Virtual High School, our students are able to engage with a teacher online, with students from across the country, and to take those courses and again, have those experiences. Our STEM Pathways program is in its 2nd full year, and the incoming 9th grade group is at capacity. And finally, some super exciting news that our school district is the first official New Jersey high school chapter for a National STEM Honor Society. When we reached out to ask about it, they said, oh, we don't have any chapters in New Jersey. And so our supervisors were like, well, you do now. And so that's great. From a technology standpoint, we've been able to assign a Chromebook for every student in grade 5 through 12. So our one-to-one initiative that began at the high school so many years ago now includes grade 5 students. Anyone in the lower grades, that doesn't mean that they don't have access to a Chromebook, it just means that they don't bring it home. They are able to use it off of the carts in class as they need it. Many of our schools purchased school panels, which is a great way to post announcements and highlights for visitors and parents when they come in for conferences. And our teachers, little by little, are getting new flat panel displays in their classrooms, which provides for improved integration of multimedia tools. The last piece that I'm going to talk about, which I can do without slides while you guys keep working, is just a reminder of our new course proposals. We have some course proposals for our special education high school students, which will really round out their transition experiences and give them opportunities with consumer shopping and workplace learning. In the humanities department, oh, perfect. There's special ed, now comes humanities. Excellent. Women's Studies, Ethnic Studies, Foundations of Spanish, which is a course ideally for students who may not be ready for a regular Spanish 1 or Spanish 2. It still teaches them basic vocabulary and Spanish language, but it also contains a heavy cultural foundation component to it. Piano 1 and 2, Guitar 1 and 2, and there's that AP Capstone class that I mentioned earlier. At the middle school, we are excited to be bringing in geometry to eligible 8th grade students. This has been a work in progress for many years. We started, board members may remember, oh gosh, probably 4 years ago. We began to identify 5th grade students who were ready for more than just the regular 5th grade math curriculum. And so those students began doing also the 6th grade math curriculum as 5th graders. And then as 6th graders, they were doing the 7th grade math curriculum and so on. And so this first group is now the group that is ready for geometry in their home school. Prior to this one, we've had students who really were ready for geometry as 8th graders. It was a very small number of kids, and we ended up having them take it online through the virtual high school opportunity. But now we're at a point where we really have a class or classes on both sides of town, and these students get an actual Parsippany teacher, and they'll be ready for Algebra 2 at their high school when they go on from there. So I'm excited about that. I think it's exactly right for our community, and we certainly have students who are ready for that opportunity. You'll see strings is on there also for middle school, and then 2 other elective classes, Multimedia 2 and Mythology and Legends, which Dr. Mulrooney is like so excited about. And then in the area of STEM, we have some honors data structures, honors engineering, engineering design and CAD, and TV production 3, because we've had kids go through TV production 1 and 2, and they still want to stay and do the work. And in reconfiguring this new course, one of the commitments that students will make if they're in production 3 is that they will be producing many of the award shows that you've been seeing online, the concert performances. That'll go directly into the hands of kids to be working on, and they are just stellar at this point. All right, so if we move on to strategic planning goal number 2, this speaks to building students who are adaptable, confident, self-aware, responsible. When we think of self-advocacy, when we think of student leadership, kids who are dependable, these are all behaviors that are fitting under our strategic planning goal number 2. So before I hand it off to our amazing teachers and students, board members, just quickly, we welcomed all of our students back to in-person learning in September. The Sanford Harmony SEL, Social Emotional Learning Program, is firmly in place at all of our elementary schools, and that was super helpful in September because teachers weren't necessarily learning a new program. They were enhancing and going deeper with a program they already had been working with for several years. We've had an advisory program take off at Brooklawn Middle School. I know Ms. Stout will talk a little bit more about that. Also at Central Middle School and Parsippany High School. Parsippany Hills High School has established a climate committee, and they're exploring restorative justice. We have a district DEAI, which is Diversity, Equity, Accessibility, and Inclusion Committee. Mrs. Mayer and Mrs. Abraham are the board member liaisons to that, and they participated in this committee meeting on Tuesday. This is to promote bias-free teaching, resources, and practices. And finally, we had students participate in parent-teacher conferences. This is beginning to start at the upper elementary level. High school teachers also, for the first time this year, held parent-teacher conferences. And we focused it this year on our most at-risk students so that we could start the year in early November, partnering with parents, establishing guidelines and interventions so that students aren't, parents, we know it, in January and February and May, recognizing that they're in trouble. So this was a good way to get that off the ground at a very early time. All right, here we go. This is the part you've been waiting for. So we are so fortunate because as I was talking with our principals, as I was making visits to the schools, there were certain schools and teachers' names that kept coming up about, oh, they've done a really great job with their parent-teacher conferences. So from Lake Parsippany School, we have fourth grade teachers, Nancy Dwyer and Wendy Barber. And then from Littleton Elementary School, we have fifth grade teachers, Jamie Marr, Dina Viscuso, and Brian Lowe. And then I'll get to the big middle school piece later. But if I can have our elementary teachers come on up, and I'm going to hand it off to you. So board members, just a reminder that one of the strategic plans speaks to helping students gain advocacy and leadership skills. And one of the ways that our teachers have been doing that, Joni, we can go to the next slide, is through student-led conferences with the parent-teacher conference. So I'm going to let our grade 4 teachers go. Yay! All right, off you go.
Thank you for having me. I'm Wendy Barber, fourth grade teacher at Lake Parsippany School. It's great to see you all in person. So one way to support learners in accomplishing this goal is through participation in student-led conferences. That's it, yeah, okay, thank you. In lieu of a traditional parent-teacher conference where the student is not present and the teacher leads, the student attends the conference and assumes the leadership role in lieu of the teacher. So I have always looked forward to conferences both as a parent and also as a teacher. And I think many of us can attest to that, especially in the fall. So when we were tasked with adding the students in, Nancy and I discussed for a while what we thought would make the most sense to us, both having experienced this as teachers and as parents. So after going back and forth for a while, we decided that we would start with one subject. And we decided that writing was the one that the students would be most comfortable with their parents, sharing what they've done. So what we did was we wrote a letter and we sent it to all of the families and we gave the parents and the students a choice. The child could attend or could not attend. It didn't matter to us either way, and we explained what it would entail. We found that 90% of our students combined said yes, and parents said yes. And of that, only about 2 to 3, given the nature of the timing, were virtual, which was kind of fun because they were on the computer and they were literally side to side at their kitchen table with their work to share with their parents. So we started the conference on a high note with their presentations, still leaving time for that, what we felt at the time, critical kind of parent-teacher alone time where we could look each other in the eyes and really have those conversations that may be a little bit more difficult to have and we weren't ready to have in front of the students. So we prepared the children. We met with them as we usually do during writing workshop individually, only this time instead of just doing our typical writing workshop conference, we instead decided we worked with them individually to guide them and prepare them for this conference. And Nancy's going to share now what that looked like in the conference and also really the great feedback that we got from everybody.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Wendy. I'm Nancy Dwyer. So let me set the scene for you. You're a fourth grade student and your parents have just signed you up for a student-led conference. So you can visualize how they looked walking into the classroom. Okay, so they slowly walked into the classroom, visibly nervous, but they sat down, and we calmed them down, and we let the parents know that their child would be presenting the written, talking about their writing in the classroom. Okay, there was a noticeable change in the body language between the parents and the child. The parents had a big smile on their face, turned to the children, leaned in, and the children sat up straighter and attempted to put a smile on their faces. They had self-reflected on their work, so they were well prepared. They knew, how they were going to present to their parents. They obviously because they were in charge, they started with their strengths and showed their parents what they had in their notebook. But they also were quick to point out that they had also set goals for themselves. They had 1 or 2 goals that they shared with their parents that they would be working on for the next couple of weeks. After that, some of them really felt comfortable and wrote off their script and asked their parents if they could read a completed writing piece that they had, and the children were obviously very proud of the work, and the parents, you could see, were beaming listening to their children. After that, we ended it with them asking their parents if they had any questions. So they fielded a couple of questions back and forth. And then we told them they were able to leave the classroom. And there were several audible sighs of relief. One little girl actually skipped out of the classroom. So, but they were very relieved. So it was, but it actually set a very nice tone, conversational tone for the rest of the meeting that we then had with the parent, teacher portion of it. So we felt that that was a good way, to continue with the conferences. As far as feedback, the parents were very quick to, say how much they enjoyed meeting, the whole meeting, and the children taking the lead. A couple of parents, when their children left, they said, "Who was that? That didn't even sound like my child." But it was, it was good for them to see them in that light. And the following day, we heard some of the children saying, "How did your meeting go last night?" So they were really, comfortable with it, and Wendy and I are thinking that their confidence, now that they've conquered that fear of the unknown, that their confidence has increased. So we're hoping that we can step up their game once we move on to more conferences. Anything else you would like to add?
No, I think it's great.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jamie Marr, and I teach 5th grade at Littleton Elementary School.
Oh, and I'm Brian Lowe. I'm also at Littleton with her in 5th grade.
So we thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to present tonight. And we have done student-led conferences for 2 years in 5th grade at Littleton, and they have been an absolute success. Very similar to our 4th grade colleagues, we sent a letter to the parents in the very beginning of the year explaining that we would have students, give students the opportunity to lead their own conference, and it would be their option. The parents would have the option of whether or not they wanted to do it. And we had over 95% of parents who participated, and almost 100% the second round last year, and they have definitely been a success. So we want to talk to you a little bit about the students' role, the teacher's role, and the parents' role. So you can talk.
Sure, I'll jump in with the students here.
Yeah.
And I also would be remiss if I did not name our esteemed colleague, Dina Viscuso, who is suffering a bit from laryngitis tonight, but all the more welcome with us. So the student role as they prepare for these conferences, very much in line with this district goal, is that of leadership. And so when we do sit together with the students, with the parents, and obviously with ourselves, those students are not merely just an interlocutor in that conversation, but they're much more we're their guide, and they're driving what it is that they've done for that year and where it is that they plan to go. And leading up to that point does obviously take a lot of preparation, which if you want to talk a bit about the teacher role to prepare the students for that.
So I'll go on that. So the teacher role during the conference is to serve as the facilitator. We are there to support the student. If the student gets stuck on something, we're there to help them communicate effectively. We are there to give them guidance. And before the conference is where the real preparation begins. So we begin that from the very beginning of the school year by teaching students how to have a growth mindset and how to self-reflect, and to self-reflect deeply. And that also involves them seeing their teacher as somebody with a growth mindset. After all projects and assignments, I always ask my students, what did you like about this? What is something that I could do better in the future? And when they see me as somebody who is a continuous learner, as somebody who wants to grow, they themselves develop that growth mindset. So after projects and assignments, I have them reflect, what were your strengths on this? What were your weaknesses? What goals do you have for the next assignment? So when it gets to the time for conferences, we have this, I begin by having students watch videos of other districts who have effectively implemented student-led conferences. And students really get to see what a good conference looks like. And that from the beginning shows them what they're going to aim for. We have them complete portfolios. They pick out assignments from all academic areas. What were your strengths? What were your weaknesses? What goals do you have for the future? And they put this all in a portfolio. They see examples of well-written portfolios, portfolios that we've written and portfolios that students have written in the past. They have examples. They have everything well organized for their parents, and it works out really well.
Sure, we can probably move to the next slide by now. As you can tell, we have a lot to say on this.
Oh, can I share something else that we do really quickly to prepare? Something we do in class is we run mock conferences. Where I'll pretend that I'm myself, and I have two kids pretend that they're the parents, and then they run through a mock conference, and they give each other such honest, effective, clear feedback, and that gives them a lot of confidence for the conference.
This is our teaching style too as a team. We kind of just sort of, and a lot of these we touched upon with how we prepare our students for their own conferences. So just maybe one thing off of here is we do prepare them with a script. It is guided before they sit down. They'd get very nervous, and as I would too if I was 9 or 10 years old, and for the first time in my life I'm going to be explaining my academic career to those that I care the most about around me. And so we do prepare them with scripts, and we do as Jamie was saying before as well, we do guide them with what it is exactly we would expect them to be talking about. It's not just a free-for-all. I think the next slide is okay to go to. And so here are some examples of those scripts that we show them beforehand. As with all teaching, modeling is pretty important to make sure we set that road for them.
And having that script in front of them, is really very helpful. They know what to go by, and we really do practice not reading the script, more talking, but it's there for them if they need it, and it really does help them to guide the conference. And I, just from experience, as a mother and a teacher, the best part about it is I watch the parent. I watch the look on their face and how proud they are, and some of them just in amazement. I've had parents cry, afterwards, and I really love just watching them. As a parent myself, I know that feeling of pride I have in my own daughter, and I also love the fact that a lot of parents have expressed that they follow through with their children. The goals that they set, they follow through, and they really have a better understanding of what's going on in the classroom. And it's a really nice way to get us all on the same page, parent, student, and teacher.
And so then we just think about some of these benefits here. About, again, how it aligns with our district goal, and how we can leave those kids, I don't want to say leave them better than we found them, but pass that baton maybe, to use a sort of corny phrase perhaps, or I don't know if anybody here is familiar with the phrase of a hype man, right, or something like that. That's kind of how I feel as a teacher a lot of times. We're trying to get them to talk themselves up and then grow to the next level. So I think. And here are some testimonials. I'm not going to try to attempt to read them, but you can read them in their own words. These are just some. We had to pick through, sieve through these.
So many. We had to pick a few.
And so these are just some of the positive accolades that the parents had adorned their children with. So.
I know, I have a great group of kids with me today. I'm super excited. I'm Carly Stout, for those of you that don't know me, and the very proud principal at Brookline Middle School. So this year we did student-led conferences as well. We piloted it last year, just a few teachers who wanted to try it out and kind of invited a couple of students. We didn't do it a lot last year, but we did, kind of try it. This year we did it with everybody, and I thought it was great because it allows the students to really be a part of the conversation that they are in the classroom, and it affects their daily lives. So how great it is to reflect on what they're doing really well, what they need to improve on, because let's face it, we all have something we can improve on, and that affects their daily life. So why not get them involved in this conversation? So in order to do that, we needed to prepare them because we've never done this before either. What's great is that the elementary schools are doing it, so as they move up into the high school, we're gonna have more and more students that are prepared with it. So this year we kind of created a little guide. So how did we do this? So in middle school, obviously, you travel through 8 classes throughout the day. Makes it a little bit harder than the elementary level. But this year we started at Brooklawn, and I know Central is doing it as well, our advisory periods. So an advisory period is where a student is assigned what we're calling like a mentor that's going to follow them all 3 years. So ideally, a 6th grader has a mentor teacher who will be their advisory period teacher next year, and 8th grade as well. And it's really just another connection in the school. How great that is to have a connection of somebody who might not ever be your teacher, but somebody you can go to discuss important things with and kind of just go over the important topics that face middle school students, I should say. So this year we've covered topics such as, we started out easy, kind of like just getting to know each other with icebreakers. We did some service projects, which is awesome to help out the community. Then we did our student-led conferences. Most recently, we talked about social media awareness, which is really important, and stress and anxiety and how that affects middle school students. So we took our advisory period in October, and we created a little guide for them. And we tried to make it as simple as we could, which is going to allow them, though, to have the tools that they need in the conference. And so what they did was, the first question they had to answer, which I thought was really important because we just transitioned everybody back to school. How was your transition back to school? And then they had to, literally circle a smiley face, a happy face, a kind of straight face, but then explain why. Why was your transition like that? And we wanted to look through those and see what are the things that we're missing, because we know what we think is a good way to transition them back, but we're not them. So we wanted to, take note of that, and they can explain that. The other 2 things that they had to do was pick an assignment that they were most proud of and that they put a lot of effort into and why, and explain why they think they did so well on it. And it's not about the grade, but how they really felt about that assignment. It could have been an assignment they really didn't get a good grade on, but maybe they put a lot of effort into it and they really enjoyed doing it. And then an area of where they can improve. And like I said, we all have areas that we can improve on, so they were able to sit there and chat and, again, be real-time part of that conversation of what they needed to improve on, get feedback from their teachers with their parents hearing it, and kind of just facilitate this conversation. So I think it went really well. I'm going to be honest, I wasn't sure how the feedback was going to go, but the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. As with anything, we need to tweak some things for next year and how we're going to do them, and that's always, part of the normal procedure, just because of the way we used to do conferences. And we can absolutely do that and get ready to do that for next year. But it was such positive feedback, and I was really excited that we were able to do this year at Brooklawn. So hearing from me is awesome. I know you love to hear my feedback, but I have 4 very brave students with me today that are going to represent Brooklawn and just speak to you about their experience. And the way I put their names on the slide is not the way I put their names here, and we practice like this, so we're going to go in this order. So I'd like to introduce to you, in this order, Molly, Amanda, Ashi, and Omar, who are going to talk to you about their experience in student-led conferences.
Hello, good evening everyone. My name is Molly Matone and I'm a student at Brooklawn Middle School, and this year we started student-led conferences. Today I will share my experience. My student-led conference went very smoothly. My family chose to do our conference virtual this year, so I began by logging on to my first Google Meet. My teacher mentioned a few things that we were learning, and then she talked about how I was doing with the material. The meet only lasted about 8 to 10 minutes. My next Google Meet had all of my academic teachers on it. They followed the same procedure. I logged on, we discussed the material, and they talked about how I was doing in all their classes. I liked how I could ask questions and discuss things I had trouble understanding in class. It was easier being there because it made it easier to communicate with my teachers one-on-one, and it was a great experience and a great addition to Brooklawn Middle School. Thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Amanda Sale, and I am here on behalf of Brooklawn Middle School to talk about our school's first experience with student-led conferences. Personally, I really enjoyed the opportunity to be present at my own conference. After all, these were my teachers and my grades, so I wanted to know any thoughts they had about me. It was a good experience, and I really enjoyed being able to hear what my teachers were saying about me in person. I think that the student-led conferences were a very good option because it allowed us as students to communicate our needs and thoughts with our teachers one-on-one. If anyone was having trouble or wanted their teachers to know something, their teachers would be able to explain everything that they needed to know. Overall, I thought that the student-led conferences were a very practical and enjoyable opportunity. Thank you for your time, and I hope you have a great evening.
Hello, my name is Ashi Kandar, and I'm a 6th grader at Brooklawn Middle School. I found the student-led conferences to be really helpful for multiple reasons. First, we were able to ask questions on what we'll be doing in the future. This helped us mentally prepare for what's coming in class. Second, the teachers provided direct feedback on what we needed to improve on in the classes. Third, the teachers informed us on what they liked about our personality or as a student. I noticed that after the feedback, I slightly changed my work ethic in different classes. This helped me to inch up my grade a little further than it was. I like that I was able to interpret all this feedback to become the best student I could possibly be. Thank you all for your time.
Good evening. My name is Omar Said. My experience with student-led conferences at Brooklawn was great. I appreciate having the ability to sit with my teachers and parents and be part of the conversation about my progress within my classes. Being able to share my perspective gave teachers as well as parents insight into the feedback during the conference. I had a similar experience in a different district in elementary school where we also did student-led conferences in 5th grade. To prepare for this, we would make a presentation highlighting what we think we excelled in and what we think we need to improve on. We would present this in front of our teachers and parents. The teacher would provide more details as needed. For these reasons, I believe BMS would benefit from a more formal presentation like this because it allows the students to lead the conversation more and be able to provide their input with teacher elaboration as needed. Overall, student-led conferences are a great way for us to self-reflect and mature as a student. It helps us be more organized and take responsibility for our efforts in class. It will also empower us and prepare us for summer presentations in high school and beyond.
I just wanted to point out that Molly, Amanda, and Ashi are in 6th grade and very brave. And Omar is in 8th grade and previously did student-led conferences in his other district. So we had a really great chat afterwards about how they've done it and how we can tweak it for next year as well. So he gave me some good feedback on how they've done it in the past as well. Thank you.
All right, just a few more, and I want to again thank our students and their parent drivers tonight. Thank you very much. And board members, our final strategic planning goal speaks to how we support and engage our adult learners. And toward that end, I know you've been aware of many of these projects because of previous presentations. We are right in the middle of a very successful pilot with the Danielson Teacher Evaluation Model that's going extremely well. We have curriculum at this point. Anything that's written is really written by teachers, and there is a committee of educators from that department, from that subject area that is really guiding that work, which I think is just truly critical. And then we also have many district committees operating. Professional development is one. This committee really guides our in-service days, provides feedback on training sessions that have been scheduled. We have a social, emotional, and learning committee that provides feedback on how the programs are working at the elementary, middle, and high school. And then I referenced the diversity committee with board member liaisons. That is really a great way to engage not only student voices, but adult voices in district decisions. Next steps for us as we wrap up our 5th year of this strategic plan is that we want to complete the goals that we've set for ourselves for this year. And what I would suggest, and we've talked about this before, board members, is that our strategic plan began in 2017 and we're in 2022. This is 5 years in. We've made tremendous progress on the goals that we've established for ourselves. And I think the timing is right at some point with the board's desire to be looking at a new strategic plan because we certainly have new obstacles and new opportunities awaiting for us. I always do a final report in June so that the board and our community is able to see where we've landed on all of the goals we've set. And then, as I said, I would expect a new strategic plan to be developed this spring and this summer to be implemented in its first year in the fall.